What's going on? What's going on, good people? Welcome to another episode of Build Your Fort with Lentheus Chaney. I'm your host, Lentheus Chaney, and today, look, I have an extremely special guest today. One of my favorite people in the world, one of my bestest friends in the world. I have Miss Shehawnee Prescod. She is the owner, CEO, the head lady in charge over at Earth Angel PR, which is a branding agency. PR and branding agency, I should say. She has been nominated top 40 over 40 for Best Self Atlanta magazine. She's been Jezebel's most eligible person in that magazine. And I must also tout the fact that she has been on the Lux list of my magazine, Urban Lux magazine. So, Shehawnee, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm wonderful. I echo the same sentiments, Lentheus. You are one of my favorite people in the entire world. You are a quadruple threat. There's really nothing that you can't do. And I am so honored. I love your new venture. I've been watching. So to actually be able to be a guest today is such a blessing. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great.
Good. Good. I'm happy to hear that. I feature entrepreneurs from the left to the right, to the up to the down. I could not do this show and not have the ultimate entrepreneur on today, and that would be you. So we met more than 10 years ago. I had this crazy idea that I wanted to start a magazine, and I don't know, we met at an event.
We met at
Ken Barber.
Oh, we met at Kim Barber's, yes.
And then I had the nerve to ask you, hey, can we have coffee? And
girl,
hey, the rest is history. The rest is history. Well, tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh gosh, it's been an incredible journey. It started off really with the onset of a divorce. So I got married really young. I was 20 when I got married and about 27 when I got divorced. And I worked in branding for cosmetics, but I wasn't really someone who had a real clear idea of their path.
Okay.
Very much one of those people in their 20s who didn't know what they wanted to do, but they knew they wanted to do something. I knew I wanted to do something. I knew I had a certain idea of a life that I wanted to live, that was one where I woke up every day really doing what I loved. And once I got divorced, I had always been somewhat with a hand in the music industry. I sing, I come from a super musical family, and I have a lot of friends who are in the music industry who I kind of grew up with, who are amazing and doing great things today. So I started moonlighting and helping them with different events. And okay, they would ask me, could I write something for, what was like the beginnings of a press release or help with an event. And it started to kind of turn into what was the beginnings of stepping out and doing publicity. So by the time I decided to do it full time, it was around the time that the bubble popped. Well, I had to learn on my feet what it was to be an entrepreneur, really at a time when I would have had to been forced to be one anyway, because everyone was losing their jobs, especially if you're in marketing, branding, those are always considered some of the first budget cuts that people make.
Right.
Organizations. So I had to learn how to, in those lean years, those were the years that trained me. And I remember I sat down at Piedmont Park watching the ducks, and I asked God, what should I name my company? And he said, call it Earth Angel. And that was the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey for me, which was almost 13 years ago.
Wow. So you have stood the test of time. You've done some amazing things. Now, I know some of the amazing things that you've done. And guys, listen, the name of her company is called what it is, first of all, because it's given to her by God, like she said. And secondly, she truly is an earth angel to those who are looking for someone to help them with PR, branding, marketing. You've gone to the New York Stock Exchange. You've actually been there and you've helped C-suite executives in their ventures along the way. Tell us a little bit about some of those things.
So I think that is one of the highlights of my career, really, because a brown girl in these spaces where petite, young looking woman. And been able to find myself in spaces where you don't always see us. And
Yeah.
I don't take that lightly. So I've been fortunate enough to work with brands like for that one, for example, is called Pro the CEO. It was started by a former VP of the NBA. And we launched his brand there, which is a brand that was designed to help players transition from on the field or on the court to off with life skills, financial planning. And it was actually co-hosted by the then chairman of the NYSC. So we got to do the trading floor. We had a whole day conference. I was able to bring some of my other clients on as panelists. So it was just one of those moments where it was a defining moment for me, just as a Black woman, being able to be in a space where you don't see us that often. So I've had the pleasure of working there. I worked with some really cool brands like YouTube TV, TransCanada Energy, big pharmaceutical companies, NBA. I've done quite a bit in the film world, maybe. I think I helped do publicity campaigns for maybe like 18 or 19 number one films. There's a story there too, which I would like to share how I got into film.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we're here for. Tell us about that story.
Because I think sometimes people don't understand that the entrepreneurial journey really is about alignment. Often it's about being aligned and taking taking an opportunity and making the most of it. So I had a friend that I knew. She was a publicist. She did a lot of film PR in California, and she started a magazine. So I volunteered to help her with some writing for the magazine, thinking, oh, I'd love to get some writing credits out there. That would be good for the career. So I'm helping and doing a few things for her. And one day, just by the grace of God and just really kind of being in the right place at the right time, she called me and she said, hey, there's this company called Liquid Soul Media. I told them that you do film PR and that they should hire you. So you're going to go meet with them in 2 days. I don't know. And whatever they tell you, whatever they ask you to do, just say you know how to do it. Okay. So it's like, okay.
Right. Shout out to Nick. Nick is coming up on an episode coming up soon. So yeah.
So they gave me a shot. So I went from having honestly zero film PR experience, none. I had really hardly any, to I think my first film PR project was Harry Potter.
Wow. Now that's big.
Yeah. So I had what the story of my journey has always been, I've had to kind of learn on my feet. I've had to learn as I'm going, and I've really just kind of showed up and then figured it out later. There was a lot of that in the beginning. That was kind of some of the reward for the years prior where I got played. People wouldn't pay. I had to learn the hard way how to determine who was a serious client and who wasn't. But after a few years and sticking it out, then it started to flow more. And some of these incredible opportunities came up. But sometimes it's really just about when you plant those seeds, you don't know how they're going to show up for you.
Exactly.
That changed my life, really. So I owe her a lot for doing that for me.
So there's been a pivot. You've pivoted. The pandemic is here. Your business has changed. I think everyone's business has changed during the pandemic. What has been the pivot been like? Bless you.
Speaking of pandemic, the timing there.
Tell me a little bit about your pivot.
So for me, the pivot it's been one that I haven't necessarily been all that willing to make. I should have done it about around 2017. I started to get the nudge that I needed to pivot the business, but I didn't necessarily listen because I wasn't valuing my intellectual property. It was something, when you gain a lot of experience, it's just something that comes to you naturally. You don't always value just your thought leadership and putting a price tag to that. But once I started to realize that, okay, we're virtual, we're not meeting, we're not having experiential events like we once were. There are no red carpet. There has to be. How can you reach people, and how can you still be of value and of service in the industry? So I started getting calls of, well, how can I pivot my business? Or I need to have a more online presence. I think my brand isn't quite what it needs to be. And maybe a year or so prior, I had decided to start doing more consultations and just charging for the strategy. Sometimes the company has a team that can put it in place. They just need someone that has the vision. So I started to consult more. People were at home. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to pivot. And that kind of birthed this whole new branch or arm of the company, which is consulting. So I do quite a bit of that either via phone or camera. And at times I do in person as well.
Understood. Wow. So that's highly important for people in business to be able to know when to pivot. And if you don't pivot right away, when you finally get the real nudge, like you said, you got to pivot. But you found something else even more fulfilling during these consultations with these entrepreneurs. What has that been?
It's what has happened is kind of the backtrack. The reason why I felt like I needed to pivot around 2017 is because I had a lot of toxicity in my life where I was super successful to certain standards in my work life, but my personal life was not as healthy, and it was spilling over into my work. It was spilling over to some of the type of clients that I had, not having great back boundaries. It was affecting my health. I was on 2 medications for high blood pressure. It just, so there wasn't a lot of balance. So God just kind of stopped me, slowed me down, and I was forced to start my healing journey. Really just looking at myself and some of the choices I made and really starting to choose self-love and not realizing that as I've learned over time, self-love and that self-love journey and really honoring yourself and your boundaries and your intuition is what people mean when they say being aligned. So going through the journey of doing that, I started to honor myself and my intuition more. And it's, it's something that runs in my family. They say we have 5 senses, but I think we have 6 plus. And one of those is some people are just super energy sensitive. They're very sensitive. If you have a strong sense of smell, you can smell chicken wings from a mile away.
Oh, that's me. Next.
Very cute. Which just, you can smell it all. Huh?
All of them.
Yeah. So that what people who are energy sensitive is really similar, where you sense things, you can feel people's emotions, you can kind of you have an inner knowing that you tap into that can be pretty accurate, either through dreams or feelings or just a nudge that I get from God, the universe, your higher self, whatever you call it, is divinely guided at the end of the day. So what started happening is the more that I delved into that journey and started to really heal and connect with myself and really just shed the layers of me that weren't serving me, I started tapping into my intuition even more. And it started to affect the way that I gave my consultations. And I would hear, not as Joel says, not out loud, but in here, I could hear things that I needed to share with that person. So the consultations almost took a life coaching spin at times.
Okay.
We're delving into things that are going on within their spirit, within their life journey that, yes, definitely affect their business, but they start with more of from a spiritual place first. And that's been an incredible journey for me. And it's one that is part of my everyday life all day, every day now.
Well, give me an example of you're having a consultation with a client and you feel led to share something with them, and what's the reaction like? How do you come across to the client and what do you say? How does that consultation go?
They usually find me. So they say there's a saying that healers don't seek out people, that you find them. So what would happen was we would be on the phone and I could just tell they're asking me they'd be asking me about their brand. Maybe they have a block or they want to do a certain event. And then when we start peeling back the layers of why they want to do something, we're getting to the bottom. The reason is usually something personal, something spiritual. What ends up happening is we get to the root of what's really going on in their heart, in their mind, and in their spirit. And their business is just a byproduct of that. And often they want to make a shift and they don't always know the reason why. And so what happens is either they're overlooking the most obvious things that they do great because they're trying to fit themselves into a space that's not for them instead of honoring their authentic self. So sometimes it's about talking about that and saying, well, this is what you do great. Why is it that you want to do this thing over here? It's usually because of the reasons are they want to get to a certain destination, but the way that they're trying to get there is not necessarily the most authentic way for them. And because I'm on the outside looking in, I can see it and say, well, hey, you love cooking. Maybe you don't really want to be on a reality show. Maybe you need a cooking show. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. This is more aligned for you in your life. Or sometimes it's scary accurate. It's like, okay, I'll just get led to share something personal that's going on with their relationship or their higher calling, their mission, where sometimes they'll reach out and they say, hey, I have this brand I'm looking to build. And I'll just feel a nudge like, yes, I get the brand, but I'm feeling led to tell you that you're supposed to step out and be the face, or you're supposed to step out and be a speaker. And the brand isn't going to thrive until you do that because you're not in alignment.
Oh, wow. That's a deep word. Alignment. Alignment is something that we all must really take tune to in our personal lives and in our business life. And from what I know and what I've learned, and even talking with you, is that spiritual alignment impacts your personal brand. And I'm assuming that people have come back and have shared with you the things that you've told them. And can you, I know you can't tell exactly what those things are, but you've had positive feedback.
Yeah, I think I'll start sharing some of the reviews, but and again, we all have gifts, and this is a gift that is used to serve. It's here to help. The company is called Earth Angel because angels help facilitate missions on Earth for people who have a calling. So my job is just as a guide is to help you on your journey and whatever that calling is for you. So when they come back, sometimes they cry when we're talking, or sometimes every time they've said, thank you. This has been super helpful. This has been exactly what I needed to hear. You were so accurate. You're spot on. I don't understand how you knew those things. And often it helped. And then I get responses like, we kind of get to the root and we break whatever that block is for them, because sometimes it's just a small mental shift that you need to have. And then even sometimes the next day, it's like, I got an interview or this person reached out to me, and it'll be exactly what we talked about, which was something they thought that they would not be able to obtain because of whatever spiritual block they were dealing with. Once they break that, then you're positioning yourself in a place to be able to receive what it is you really want that you're putting out there. So
And that makes lots of sense. That makes lots of sense. What do you think some of these blocks come from? I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's pretty accurate. I'll just say that. I'm getting used to just being able to just say it out loud. But yeah, pretty
Good.
accurate.
Very good.
Yeah.
The blocks that you speak of, are they generated via people wanting things that they see on the internet? Is it family? Is it, what is it that causes these blocks?
Everyone is different for everyone. I think at the core is about, if there was anything that I would say most people have a block with, it's self-love, because we live in a society that doesn't really celebrate that, especially for entrepreneurs. We're taught go hard, sacrifice everything. You are your profession. You are your latest win, and that's it. And a lot of us are workaholics. A lot of us are perfectionists. And that comes from a place, usually from childhood or from a bad relationship where we haven't broken these patterns of not putting ourselves first, not on. And that doesn't mean being selfish. It just means really understanding who you are, spending time with yourself to understand yourself, self-awareness, celebrating your strengths, but sitting in your dark moments and in your shadows and saying, it's okay. These are some areas for me that are darker that I have to acknowledge so that you know how to overcome them. If you're running from them, if you can't face them, you can't make that pivot because you refuse to acknowledge that it's there. So often, especially with entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business people in general have a fear of being seen. I think that's a big one for us all. We love having the accolades and having the work speak for itself, but often that imposter syndrome and that feeling of someone somewhere told us that it's better for us not to be seen or to not shine as bright as we'd like to because it may not be, you may not be getting all the favorable reactions for shining bright. But if you're called to do that here in this planet, then you're doing yourself a disservice when you don't. And that's usually where we have an issue. So you try these things out, you put yourself in places and spaces that are not for you. They're just not.
And you're able to see those things or you make light of them and you bring them to the forefront as to where many of us have ignored those things. So as an entrepreneur who wants to be better alignment with our brand, spiritual alignment with our brand, what things can someone do on their own just to start off?
To be more aligned?
Yes.
I think spending time with you is a big one because we often run. You can fill your schedule up with being busy or maybe entertaining relationships in people, places, and things that are for your greatest and highest good. Getting alone and getting quiet and spending time with yourself to really seek out your soul and who you are is a big one. I think also sometimes self-love is shown via action. So assessing the people, places, and things in your life, do they honor you? Do you have proper boundaries? If not, why don't you have proper boundaries? Where does it stem from? And then how can you start to overcome them and put them into practice? I think those are big ones. What else would I say? Mind, body, and spirit. Grounding, walking, moving your body, taking account of what you put in your body. Everything starts within us. So if your core, your soul, your spirit, your energetic space, if that's not in alignment, then it's going to show in other areas of your life. And that's all of us. As long as we're breathing, we're going to be making adjustments, and that's okay. It's just about starting the journey and being able to recognize how to make those pivots.
So those are the things that you can do to start along your spiritual alignment journey, as well as consulting with a divinely aligned person like yourself to help you with your personal brand. Sounds like a recipe for success for me.
Like I said, it's taken me this long to really publicly speak about it because I've been doing it behind the scenes for a while. People call me for advice all day. We talk about everything under the sun. Sometimes it can be a corporate brand who's like, they want the nuts and bolts and it's super corporate, but there's still that divine element that comes with that I can share with them of, okay, I think this strategy will work for you. Because sometimes it's, again, just being able to be on the outside looking in to the person who wants to talk a little bit more deeply about what's happening with them from a personal space. So I love when I see the success stories, or I love when I share something that may be coming in or someone that may be coming into their life. And then they call me and they say, oh, that happened. Or you said do this and I'm seeing the changes or just being able to be a trusted guide and supporter along their journey, especially people in the public eye don't always have a lot of people they can trust.
Exactly.
Um, they have to be private. There's a level of privacy and discretion that you have to have. So being able to kind of share with them some things that will help them on their journey is it really I love it. I absolutely love doing it.
So, how has it been for you as we come to the end of our interview here? Tell me how it's changed you since you have embraced the fact that you're able to guide people in a divine manner towards their goals. How has it changed you personally?
It's completely changed me because the work I had to do to get to this place of self love, of sacrifice, of really choosing to live my life as in a higher vibration and I'm working towards it every day. Like I said, I would never say I've arrived at all, but the level of sacrifice and changes that I made to my lifestyle have been wonderful for me as a person. I'm into fitness now. I have great relationships with quality people in my life. I don't have a lot of toxicity, and that's been incredible. And so I was my own client first. And then what's happened is I'm walking in my purpose because just like them, sometimes it's the most obvious thing. For me, people always call me for advice. Always. I've always been able to say, like, you're going to be famous. And then they end up being famous. Or I think you have it. I think they're going to call you about a show. And then it's like, I haven't told anyone, but yeah, they did. So it's been one of those things for me that has helped me to walk in my purpose, the thing that is the most natural for me to do, the most obvious thing for me to do was the absolute last thing that I wanted to do or looked at
Mm,
or valued. But now, every day, being able to help and guide and to be of service in that way is it's everything. It's everything to me. You get to connect with people in their heart and see their spirit and their soul, and then see how that translates into their real life and how they make money and how they show up in the world. Because business and personal lives are not separate anymore. You
right,
are your brand these days, especially
right.
social media. We spend so much of our life working. We get so much fulfillment or so much misery from it. So it makes sense that there would be a spiritual, energetic emphasis on it. So, yeah.
I
Okay.
love everything that you had to say there. That was absolutely wonderful. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely. One thing that I know for sure about you is that you've always been a person, even before you've gotten to where you are now in your own journey, is that you've always poured into people. You've always spoken life into others. You've always uplifted. That's what you do. That's who you are. And I appreciate that most definitely for the things that you've done for me in that respect as well. I know that you've got a very, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, can I brag on you for a little bit?
No, you cannot. But go ahead. I'll let you have 2 seconds.
No, I'm the same. What people don't know about you, this is why you got this platform because you're one of your greatest gifts and strengths is you are they call you the king and queen maker for a reason. It's because your regal, your royalty, your divine light, and you have that, and then you help other people discover theirs. And everything that you said about me, I could say about you times 10. So you're always behind the scenes, but I love that you're starting to let people see who you are and how funny and how wise and how much of a leader that you are. So I appreciate you, and I'm sure your audience does too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just a little bit crazy, just a little bit, not much, but
You need to be my friend.
hey, what you see is what you get. I know that you've got something exciting coming up with the Morehouse School of Medicine.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit before we go?
I'm super excited. I'm doing a series of workshops with Morehouse School of Medicine. We're doing personal branding, and it's really designed to help these bright, beautiful scientific minds who really kind of who may not necessarily be the most extroverted of people to take a moment to really assess their personal brand, identify who they are, and then be able to communicate that well to the public and how to network and align themselves for their careers outside of their collegiate experience. So I'm super excited that starts in November, and then the plan is to curate it for the general public, and I'll be doing more workshops. I'm always doing personal consultations, but I'm interested in doing more workshops as well, and just really pouring into people who are going to be these great leaders for us.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. Congratulations for that opportunity.
Thank you.
Will you be doing any divine work, spiritual work, with the students, do you think?
The way my life is set up, it's in everything that I do, whether the client is asking for it or not. So everything is divinely guided at this point. So the goal is to give the guidance that is needed. So, but we'll keep it a tad bit more scientific and make sure they have facts and figures, but the divine is always going to show up. So
This is true.
God is in everything.
Any last words before we end? Anything else you want to talk to the audience about before we leave?
Yeah, I'm just going to say people who are intuitive or empathic are not as rare as you think. I think there's a lot of us out here, but we're not willing to come out and say it. It's a dirty little secret that I seem to find myself connecting with people in the real world with a lot. And if you feel like you have those gifts, you have those gifts for a reason. Don't deny them. They come from God. It's okay. Take some time to really develop them and honor them. It's something that most humans have. We're just taught to dismiss it, but it's not spooky. It's not weird. It's part of the human experience as well. So,
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Shehawnee, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to talking to you on the other side of the camera and the microphone, I should say.
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being on the show with you. Thank you again.
You're very welcome. Have a great one.
You work hard all year long, so why not get more for your money at Experamax Midtown Atlanta? Looking for a MacBook Pro, iMac, or iPad? Don't pay full retail prices at the Apple Store when you can get the same quality products without the premium price. Experamax in Midtown Atlanta is your Apple headquarters, with everything from Apple desktops to laptops, watches, accessories, and more. Get the peace of mind you deserve and buy with confidence, knowing that all of Experamax certified pre-owned products are put through rigorous testing to make sure they deliver the reliability and dependability you demand. Experamax Midtown Atlanta makes it easy and affordable. Plus, you can trade in your old devices and get an offer right on the spot. So shop smarter and save money only at Experamax Midtown Atlanta.